All right, now let's take a question from the audience. Thank you so much for sending these in. They are so extremely helpful for me.
Hi, Chani. My question for you is about Saturn placements, specifically Saturn placements that are in prominent houses in the chart, and even more specifically within angular houses of the chart. Both me and my dad have Saturn in our 10th house of career. It's also where my midheaven is. And then my mom has Saturn in her first house of self. And I was just wondering if you could speak to how Saturn might show up in our lives differently or more prominently than if the Saturn had been placed in a different house. Thank you.
Well, we can definitely say that you have a very Saturnine family. And it all depends on what other planets are around, what the signs are, like what is the rising sign? Is one of your Saturns in one of its own signs, or is it in a sign where it has great difficulty? All of these things will color and shape and give a translation as to how Saturn shows up. And also, having Saturn in the 1st or the 10th is like the consummate critic. There's something here about that placement that is really powerful and really potent. And because Saturn is like the principle, it's like right, wrong, yes, no. It can be very concrete. It does make for a good social critic. It makes for a great writer oftentimes, again, depending on the sign and other things in the chart. It makes for a really good editor. It makes for a really good shaper of things. Saturn also has a connection to agriculture. It has a connection to bones and dirt and death and the endings of things in a lot of ways. And so, if there's like a family business that has something to do with one of those things I just mentioned, you never know, like these weird kind of translations can happen, or these weird kinds of threads can kind of get pulled through the family. But it is also to say, like, just on a very topical note, Saturn in prominent places for all three of you is going to kind of feel like an intense setup. Like, who is going to be in control? Who is going to shape the thing? Who is going to give me the rules? Like, do you all three have different rules? Do you all abide by the same rules? Rules become really big when Saturn is prominent. It would be so if it was in the 7th or the 4th house as well, in different ways. But there's this feeling of rigidity that can set in when Saturn is prominent in the chart. Not in all areas of your life, but there's going to be places where you're like, these are the rules that I follow. I don't follow rules in this area of my life, but I follow rules here. This is how I'm disciplined. Maybe not in all areas of my life, but here I'm disciplined. This is where I am an authority. Not in all areas of my life, but here I'm an authority. And those are like Saturnian vibes. Now, if Saturn has a hard time in the sign that it's in, maybe that's really hard for one of you, right? Like maybe if Saturn is struggling and it's prominent, then the struggle to move into your maturity, your integrity, your self-discipline, that can all get hard or be the main struggle of the life. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. I have a really hard Saturn, but have found a way to be disciplined. I've found a way to work really hard. I've found a way to do the things that are really Saturnian in a way that I can do them, if that makes sense. It's like I had to build my own system and I had to build my own thing. I couldn't fit into other people's systems and other people's discipline, but I got there and it took a long time. The other thing about having really prominent Saturns is that they are about delay, right? Saturn is about delay. So it can take us a while to move into our power, our purpose, our authority, our integrity, whatever. It can be a signature of being a late bloomer. And so maybe you all have that in common too. So it's about thinking about like, what are Saturnian principles and how are they prominent in all of our lives in the same ways, in different ways, and in complementary ways, and maybe in conflicting ways. Depends, again, how you all kind of interpret that. But again, what signs your Saturns are in, what planets are there with them, what planets are aspecting them, and all of those other astrological rules. Thank you so much. That was an excellent question. Thank you for sending in your questions. Please keep sending them in. Again, it helps me think about how to give you this information in the most helpful way.